Now this morning I have a couple little interesting projects to work on and some information I'll share with you on making some rear camera mounts for motorcycles. Now for the last couple of years we have used a variety of cameras. We have the $14 GoPro clones, and I have the $40, the light GoPro clone. It's hard to say that. Glow in the dark clones. But anyway, what I wanted to mention first thing is I have tried to use this camera to shoot rides with zero good results. The reason is the microphone picks up so much wind noise. So what I did in the very beginning, I got rid of that camera. I went and spent $14 for this camera. This camera was fun to, it shot reasonably good video. I tried making various lenses and buttons and things like that are all documented on earlier videos. But I wound up with, for $40, getting a light dow camera, drilling a couple of holes so I could hear the engine run a little bit better. That worked a little bit nicer. But the hard part about this is deciding on how and where to mount it to maximize the good footage. And that's what I'm going to try to deal with today. Now once you have that $14, $40, $400 camera, you have to have a place to mount it. A lot of people choose to mount it to their helmet. Now I was never really satisfied with any of the footage I got mounting it to the helmet facing forward. I guess because my neck is made out of rubber bands or something. It never really gave me the quality of footage I liked. My head, this was happening the whole time, up and down and whatever. But it led me to believe, try it. And at least I've eliminated that out of my possible things that I shoot footage from. So what I decided when I got the new Shoei X14, I on purpose did not even put a camera mount on the helmet. I wanted to have all the camera mounts on the bike from this point on. And I wanted to go through this real quickly because we're going to make one in real time here. But what worked out fine on the GS, I mounted it right to a little plate, to a mirror. It swivels, it turns up and down, and I like to always catch some of the instruments when I'm shooting the footage. Now, on the GS, the Evil Twin, I don't have a rear mount. That's coming in the near future, but I don't have a rear mount. So when I shoot footage from this bike, I really can shoot backwards with this. I can face it up at myself. I can shoot forward. All with one convenient mount. But the trick is this mount is off the side of the motorcycle. When it's in the middle, you can't really shoot rearward facing footage. On the FZR, I have this side mount, and this really, I like the footage that I get with this. I had made this just to shoot forward and back, and I can rotate it up so it's higher or lower. That turned out to be a good one, but I have several on this bike. I have one up on the front where the radar detector used to mount. We've got a new bag mount, so that radar detector mount is now just extra. But they have several places to mount the camera. In fact, on this bike, we can mount it to the back of the seat. Now, what I learned from mounting it to the back of the seat, the footage is great. You can just catch the edge of the Ferrari emblem. And so, but you do have, there's always issues of you want to be able to see back because we're trying to capture the riders that are riding behind us. And everybody, let's be realistic, everybody likes to go home and watch themselves on video. Now that led me to make this mount on the R1, which serves a lot of purposes. I can shoot forward, I can shoot back, I can turn it side to side. And I like this, this captures the sound. And one of the things about the R1 with my custom-made mufflers that I made, I like the sound of that motorcycle so much, that cross-plane engine. I'm really, more than anything, recording the sound when I shoot from that camera mount right there. Now the R1 also has a forward mount. So if I'm in a group ride, there's a bunch of people in front of me, I can record them. I can put two cameras on and record who's behind, who's in front, both at the same time. We have 3 cameras total. So a lot of times both cameras are running on a group ride. Now on the 750 I have a mount out here, which I like the footage from the side. Now I've heard people do like it and people don't like it, but that's all in the eye of the beholder anyway. And this is all for fun anyway. We're not trying to create $1 million movies. What we like to do, the whole purpose of having these camera mounts is just so we can share our rides with people that we don't get to ride with all the time. I saved the RD for last for a simple reason. Making a camera mount for the RD, you have to deal with a little bit different problem than you deal with the bigger bikes. This bike has resonant vibration. Some of it comes through the handlebars at high RPM. So a lot of times when I'm shooting, I've moved this mount to the other side. I've changed the handlebars already. I've had it mounted to the master cylinder. And what'll happen is you move the resonance range, but you never really cure it. So whenever I've shot two-stroke video, I always try to shoot with the camera that I have on a chest of my motorcycle, on a chest of the jacket, and keep the motorcycle one. It'll be in certain RPM ranges, it'll be perfect, but then you'll see the camera will start to do that. And that's a very typical thing when you're trying to shoot. And I haven't found a real cure. I've made it better, but I haven't totally cured it yet. So today's little project, and I wanted to do a little bit of the background on it, but today's project is going to be, I have a forward mount, and I found that one of the very few places that this bike I could shoot good video from because it has a big windshield. So there were really limited places to put this, but I found a spot that I get nice footage, the sound is decent, I'm happy with the way this is. And the main thing is, I always like to have the mount of the camera where it's convenient while I'm riding a motorcycle to be able to turn it on and off conveniently without having to stop and take my gloves off and things like that. So I was always happy with this. What I wasn't happy with is I had several mounts that I don't even use anymore that I had put on the side covers, the side fairings, and a couple of things where they were vibration issues. There aren't really big solid brackets holding that. And then I had made a mount that I mounted in a little rubber biscuit back here. And what would happen is, again, you'd have anything that's rubber mounted or vibration, it tends to vibrate. It would be good, certain conditions, certain RPM, then not good. Resonant vibration is a constant problem. So what I thought I'd do today, my little project, and it's something we can share conveniently, because if you get bored, just delete the video. I want to take the seat off. I looked at three possibilities here. One is I can mount it to the mount that holds this tail section on, bring a little piece of aluminum out here, mount it, but then this blinker gets in the way. See, some of the stuff back here is rubber mounted. Some isn't. Some is solid. I'd rather mount it to something solid. So that's one choice. Then the other choice is, I see there's enough of a gap in between the seat and the bodywork here. I may be able to take a little piece of aluminum and mount it right to the back here. And that would be very convenient if that works out. Now, it did work out on the 750. It worked out perfectly. On the R1, I liked having it off to the side. On the FZR, in the middle, it worked out well. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that every bike is a unique little challenge to find places that don't have resonant vibration and that it's easy to turn the camera on and off. And the main thing is that you get footage that you enjoy watching and enjoy sharing with your friends. So let me get started right here, number one, by taking a seat off the motorcycle and see what we got underneath there. What we're looking for is a place to hard mount a piece of aluminum. Now this is a seat that I've recovered more than once. Now let me explain why. The stock seat is very comfortable, but what happens is it's got a taper down in the front. I carved this piece out of foam. I think this is on a previous video, because whenever you were riding this bike, you'd be sliding down, go like always on a downhill slide, and I didn't care for that. Now, and you can see where the slide comes from. You're always facing down. I didn't really like that at all. I like sitting on a flat surface. But anyway, a couple of good things. We have a piece of steel. We can drill, tap, put a nut in it. Actually could put a nut in there with no problem at all. There's plenty of room back there. Choice two, I could mount it right to the seat. I have to figure, yeah, there's plenty of solid material there, no problem at all. So we got a lot of choices. Now I have two buckets of parts that I use for making these mounts. And there are all kinds of things. When you buy these $14 cameras, you get all kinds of accessories with them. By the way, I've never trusted these suction cups. Good luck if you trust them. Again, I've made a lot of mounts for radar detectors, cameras, whatever. But the first thing I do, and I've made some out of carbon fiber, some out of aluminum. The first thing is to see if something we've already got made, we can retrofit, bend, or use. So before I cut up a new piece of material. I thought I'd mention this because this is if you're new to these cameras and mounts. These suction cup things, I think if you ride a bicycle or something, they're fine. But if you do decide to use them, here's the problems I've had on certain motorcycles. They do that. They vibrate, ruin your footage. Number two, that suction cup, if it's not on a perfectly flat surface, you'll be riding along, all of a sudden it isn't there. Well, I've taken shoelaces, and you can see how many lanyards and things I've had. And so has Mark Morgan and other people had the cameras come off while they're riding. So you want to be aware of that. Even if you use this on your helmet. This is something I always put. This is the bucket of stuff that I don't think is, what I would want to use. And this is my bucket of stuff that I do like to use. A test piece of aluminum just to see that I have enough room to get in there. I think that's going to be fine. Well, virtually none of the stuff that I had already made fit, so I may as well just take a new piece of material from our scrap bucket here and make up a new bracket. So with a piece of scrap, it's already got a bend in it. I can see, oh, this is not even close. I've got to go down to the vise, rebend this. I need that bend in it, and then I need a little tab on the back. So I can just mark where I want those bends with a Sharpie marker. Should save a little bit of time. What I did, I copied the angles and the dimensions off of this, and I made a thinner piece. I'm not sure which is going to be the better of the two, but having a look at this, I think this is going to be overkill. It'll just be wider than it has to be. It's such a short moment arm that I don't think there'll be any vibration. And we can go a little bit lower. Each time I do this, I'm making some small adjustments. Material is relatively inexpensive. Rather than trying to rebend this, I'm just going to make up another bracket. I want to make this a little bit shorter. I've got the angle right. I've got this angle right. I just need to get this bend just a little bit shorter. And it's not a big deal if you don't get it right on the first shot, because 3 feet of this material, relatively inexpensive. And again, I buy it at Lowe's. I can use the original piece to get my angle right, and I have both of the angles right. I just needed to make that piece a little bit shorter. So I use this for kind of like a pattern, and I can make up the final piece. So when you put the final bend on, I can kind of line this up, and it just minimizes the amount of time I have to go back and forth to the garage. Now, just to make this fit better, what I'm going to do is relieve a little bit of this material. This is going to allow this to sit flatter and minimize the gap between the seat and this little trim piece. And it's just going to allow that piece to sit down a lot flatter. And that can just come off just that little lip, and maybe some of this with the Dremel tool. Okay, with that material removed, our bracket will sit right down in between the seat and this cosmetic part. Yeah, it took a little bit longer than I thought it would to come up with the right shape, and the shape was important. I had to make several of these, but again, the good news is the material is relatively inexpensive. Now I want to lay this out. I want to drill the holes in the motorcycle, bolt this in, and then I have to put that little piece on the end, and then the final thing will be to polish up the bracket. Now we just need to go through our spare parts here and find an appropriate piece, and we have several choices, of course. I would like to find one that I can mount with one bolt if possible. We always have this if all else fails. That's already made up. And the next thing I want to do, I want to trim this off. That piece will fit right on there. Radius this all off, and of course clean all the hammer marks and tooling marks off of this and polish it up. That's pretty much what I had in mind. But what I do, that last little bit, I'll get with the belt sander. Now, using one of the soft pads, this should clean right up. This aluminum is relatively soft aluminum. It usually comes right up very quickly. The thing not to do is put any rough stuff that's going to give it any scratches you can't get out. Now you just got to attach this part permanently. Woo! Flying parts. Go out, spot these holes, drill them. That's pretty much ready to install. I want to make sure I got these holes spotted exactly where I want them. And be able to get my hand under there and get a nut on and a wrench. Now it looks like it's going to be real nice. Now the whole objective here, you want this to be as solid as can be. And the thought of any kind of vibration back here is just going to deteriorate the quality of the footage that we shoot. A little adjustment is I need to take the thickness of the bolt heads off of this. This rests on the bolt heads, and that'll bring the seat back down to the place where we want it to be. No, I think that played out just about as well as I've ever made one. We've got the seat fit back, and of course, if we get sick of it, it's removable. And having it on this rubber-mounted piece was really not a great idea to begin with. Solid mount always seems to give you better footage, and of course, you got to be careful when you get on and off the bike. Don't kick the camera. Another little tip about these cameras: drilling some holes in the back, and I've tried even taking this piece off, but it seems like it's the best when it's got some holes that lets the sound in there. And no matter where you mount the camera, and for every bike it's different, every person's taste is different, but it's a wonderful, amazing technology that we can share, and being able to share the rides with my friends all over the world. Even in Europe we get video of people that we would never be able to get to share a ride with them, or share where they ride, or some of the unique places around our area. So anyway, I hope this camera mount gives you some ideas of something you can do for very little money, very little time, and it'll make your enjoyment of riding that much more. Anyway, and thanks of course for watching.